Carl Jung once said, "The most devastating weapon against a narcissist isn't rage or revenge. It's the empath who finally says, 'Enough.'" What followed, even Jung found surprising. He, the renowned psychoanalyst and founder of analytical psychology, uncovered a deep psychological struggle that most people live through without ever fully seeing: the emotional tug-of-war between narcissists and empaths. Jung noticed that narcissists aren't afraid of anger or confrontation. They're afraid of truth. Specifically, the moment an empath wakes up to it. What unnerves the narcissist isn't being shouted at, it's the internal change in the empath's mind, a mental shift that renders all of the narcissist's tactics useless. He found that empaths have an unusual gift. They can feel what others cannot express. They sense emotional wavelengths unspoken, which makes them both highly compassionate and deeply vulnerable. This sensitivity doesn't just make them warm-hearted, makes them prime targets for emotional manipulators who use feelings to gain control. Jung compared the meeting of two personalities to a chemical reaction. If any reaction happens, both are changed. But what if the chemical interaction is toxic? What if one of them doesn't want connection, only dominance? He identified a pivotal moment the exact second the narcissist loses their grip hand. It's not when you'd expect. It happens before the empath consciously realizes the dynamic has shifted early on. Jung observed, the narcissist and empath seem perfectly compatible. One seeks attention and praise. The other offers deep understanding and care. But this harmony is an illusion masking imbalance. The narcissist doesn't provide real intimacy, only performance. A calculated act designed to extract energy and validation. Jung revealed a trap that holds empaths in these relationships for years. Not ignorance, but belief. The belief that healing is possible, that love can fix what's broken, that beneath the facade someone worth saving remains. Yet Jung made a painful discovery. For narcissists, the mask is the person. There is no deeper self to uncover. Their persona isn't hiding the truth, it is the truth. And they have one fear that surpasses rejection or abandonment. When triggered by the empath, it changes everything. That trigger begins with subtle fractures in the illusion, lies with no purpose, emotional numbness in moments that demand care. These become psychological clues. Over time, the empath begins questioning everything they thought they knew. Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." For empaths, awakening means realizing that what they thought was love was control. That awareness isn't just painful, it's emotionally earth-shattering. Jung mapped out a transformation in 3 parts. The final stage is what makes empaths so dangerous to narcissists, because it can't be manipulated. The first transformation is emotional detachment, not coldness, but a psychological rewiring. The empath stops playing the narcissist's game. This isn't merely a breakup. It's a break from lifelong patterns of self-erasure and emotional overgiving. Jung understood that narcissists don't only manipulate emotions, they reshape identity. They create conditions where the empath questions their worth based on how well they satisfy the narcissist's ever-changing demands. Escaping this requires confronting a terrifying personal truth. The reason empaths stay isn't love, it's fear. The fear of facing their own shadow. Jung's shadow work forces the empath to acknowledge their unconscious attachment to roles like fixer, healer, and forgiver. The narcissist abuses this again and again because it works. But liberation begins with one internal question. Why am I apologizing for their behavior? Why do I feel guilty for needing space? Jung saw silence, when used by the awakened empath, as a weapon. Not the silence of withdrawal, but the silence of self-possession. It's not the empath's words that unsettle the narcissist, it's what they stop saying. The second transformation is non-reaction. Narcissists require emotional fuel, someone to provoke, to guilt-trip, to confuse. When the empath stops reacting not out of coldness, but from inner clarity, the narcissist spirals into panic. Jung described this silence as an act of rebellion. It says, "You no longer have access to me." The narcissist typically escalates through guilt, fake charm, threats, or feigned vulnerability. But if the empath remains grounded, they realize something. True closure doesn't come from the narcissist, it comes from not needing it anymore. Jung highlighted a specific moment, the instant the narcissist understands they've lost power. It arrives when the empath does what the narcissist never imagined. They speak their truth. This third transformation is the reclaiming of voice. Not the frantic voice that once begged, explained, or justified, but a grounded voice rooted in truth. This voice doesn't ask for approval. It simply states this was manipulation. This wasn't love. To name something is to break its spell. When empaths do this, they reclaim the story. They stop living inside the narcissist's script. Jung recognized that nothing horrifies a narcissist more than seeing someone they once controlled rise. That kind of thriving after abuse shatters their entire illusion. It doesn't just signal rejection. It proves a truth they've long tried to escape. You were never the powerful one. We're only powerful as long as I didn't see myself. Clearly, the final transformation that Jung described was not just survival, it was thriving. Not merely getting through the pain of narcissistic abuse, but evolving because of it. Becoming whole, becoming integrated. This evolution terrifies the narcissist. Why? Because it confirms their deepest fear. They were never the source of the empath's light. They were simply standing in its way. Narcissists crave one thing, more than anything else, to feel important, to be the central character in someone else's life. But when the empath begins to thrive, Jung observed that entire illusion collapses. Suddenly, the narcissist becomes irrelevant. And for someone whose sense of self depends on control, that's psychological devastation. Jung identified a final, unshakable psychological line. Once crossed, it makes the empath permanently immune to narcissistic manipulation. This is the empowered empatha, one who has achieved what Jung called individuation, the full realization of the self. These empaths create boundaries, but not from anger or fear. These boundaries are crafted from a deep sense of self-respect. They don't serve to isolate, they serve to transform. These limits don't just protect, they create space for growth, for real connection, not dependency or exhaustion. One of Jung's most profound observations was this: the scariest thing a person can do is to fully accept themselves. For the empath, who has endured years of emotional manipulation, this means recognizing their value not for what they give to others, but for who they are. It means knowing that saying no doesn't equal rejection. It's a form of self-preservation. That caring for yourself first isn't selfish, it's essential. Because without that foundation, true empathy cannot exist. In his deeper reflections, Jung explained why empaths who break free from narcissistic abuse unlock a rare psychological strength, one that extends beyond the abuser. This transformation shifts their entire reality. In the end, Jung understood. The biggest threat to a narcissist isn't someone who retaliates. It's someone who heals, someone who sees the game, steps outside it, and no longer plays. This empath has no need to argue or prove. Their presence is enough. Their peace is evidence. Evidence that the narcissist's control was never permanent. That manipulation has an expiration date. That true freedom is not in revenge, but in reclamation of self. And that, Jung believed, is the final victory. Not in destroying another, but in rebuilding your own soul. Your boundaries, as Jung might put it, are more than just lines. They are the blueprint of your personal freedom. Build them with care. Guard them with strength. Watch your life change from chaos into peace, from a battlefield into a sanctuary. Thank you for being here for this deep dive. If this message meant something to you, consider subscribing and share it with someone who needs this truth.